of course, with this it being a big topic, and maybe this is what's going to happen with years to come. You have this governor's race out of Virginia, and one of the primary talking points, really, with everybody involved there in campaigning was the school. Now, of course, I'm of the abolish all public schools and stop taxing people to pay for them. But this has been a talk of conversation. And because of what's happened in the last year, and you got this critical race theory stuff and the COVID nonsense and teachers unions pimping out these schools or pimping out your kids as well. You see all of that taking place, and now parents finally are paying a little more attention. Better later than never, than what I say. As the Hill reports here, which is a hilarious story. Juan Williams says that parents' rights is code for white race politics. See, this is why activists should be mocked, shamed, and laughed at. Again, I know I'm a little rough around the edges. I know some people, that's not for a lot of people, and I expect that. I understand that. I've never tried to present myself as if I'm going to appeal to each and every individual, but I will appeal to somebody, particularly people like me that respond to people like me. Okay? But these guys should be mocked, shamed, laughed at, made fun of because of how deranged that they are. And they get more and more ridiculous the more they're allowed to just get out there and say the ridiculous things that they are, because they feel emboldened by that. Juan Williams saying this. Let's see what the Hill is actually saying that he said. Let's listen. After white supremacists spilled blood in defense of keeping up Confederate statues in 2017, the GOP candidate for governor of Virginia, Ed Gillespie, said the monument should stay up as a matter of heritage or history. His TV advertised featured threatening images of Latino gangs labeled illegal immigrants involved in murder and rape. The racially loaded culture wars campaign, straight from then Trump's playbook, gave Gillespie a push, but he ultimately lost the race to Ralph Northam, who appeared in blackface, if I'm not mistaken. So you swapped one supposed racist for another, like, literal one. Now, Virginia Republicans are back with a new and improved culture wars campaign in 2021. The closing argument is once again full of racial division, but this time is dressed up as a defense of little children. The rallying cry for parents' rights. It is a campaign to stop classroom discussion of Black Lives Matter protests or slavery, which is not what it actually is, by the way, because it upsets some children, especially white children who might feel guilt. And this time, the Trump imitating Republicans think that they have struck political gold. Unlike the earlier defense of Confederate monuments, the Parents' Rights Campaign message at first looks to have zero to do with race, because it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't have shit to do with race, unless you're just speaking about it in the terms of how you guys use race as this kind of political ploy and a way to really guilt trip so many people, including children. So, yeah, in that case, yeah, I guess it's about race. But the issue with school and the people that want to, like, make sure or try to implement ways to have some sort of choice and decision in where their child goes to school, that part has nothing to do with race. This is something that benefits. I know they've styled it in a way in which it only for some reason benefits white children and white parents, but that couldn't be anything further from the truth. I have been an advocate long before these little milquetoast Republicans got on board. I've been talking about abolition of fucking public schools for the better part of a fucking decade, and I'm black as shit. So all things considered, the reason being is I know that you guys are in charge of an indoctrination camp that really pumps out a bunch of little minions and soldiers that grow up to worship the state and defend it at every given turn. Of course, I would never have my child put through that institution, and I would be doing everything in my power to ensure that that doesn't happen, because I'd refuse to give a bunch of criminals and a band of criminals. Yes, I know some of you guys are public school teachers. I'm sorry, you work for a bunch of criminals, and you are the indoctrination wing of the state. I'm just going to give it to you 100. Quit or work in a different or work for a different institution, and I won't say that. Nonetheless, there's no fucking way I would give the state access to my child's mind in that regards. And understanding that, and so many other people are waking up to that, this isn't the issue of race. It simply is. You want it to be one because I guess it makes it more prettier for you, because you get to say, look at me, I'm defending the POCs or whatever you call them these days. That puts Democrats on the defensive. They are uncomfortable with the position of calling the attention of suburban white women's moms to divisive racial politics used by Republican Glenn Youngkin's campaign. He says the Democratic candidate calls the Republican message a racist dog whistle. It's amazing, man. These guys are fucking incredible. Youngkin's closing message of book banning and silencing esteemed black authors is racist dog whistle designed to gin up support for the most extreme elements of his party. And this is what McAuliffe said. Now let's talk about that real quick. So we've just talked about this on the show. It's a play on words, because this is what they say. If a black person writes a book, and this is often what happens, these guys would never get these books. Of course, need to be purchased by public education system, because nobody would in their right mind voluntarily buy them anyway, for the most part. So what happens is these books, some of them filthy as fuck, and not even on like racial issues. It's like some of the like sexual shit that they're trying to put in these books is you want to talk about deplorable. But they put that stuff in there. Maybe it's done by a black author, right? So if you are against that being in the school, then at that point you're somehow suppressing black authors. See, that's how they do that shit, right? But it's not about the author being black or anything, and they know that. They know that. They absolutely know that. They absolutely know that, and they don't care, because if they get to lie, as if Juan Williams and the likes are doing, and was he the article here? Yeah, he was he wrote the article. This is what they do best. And let's see what else he says. It's not too long ago, Southern racists, not sure why they skipped up like that. Republican advertising, it says not too long ago right here, the racist Southern politicians rallied against integration with an argument for states' right. This has nothing to do with any of that. Republican advertising now fails to mention the movement in Virginia was born of opposition to advanced placement high school students reading prize-winning novel about the horrors of slavery beloved. And it's like nobody has an issue with acknowledging actual history. That I don't know anybody that has that particular problem. Basically, this guy just goes on, says critical race theory broadly, a focus on racial disparities as a fact of American life, is not explicitly taught in Virginia public schools or anywhere in America in American public schools. That is a lie. I'm not sure what no, it's not explicitly taught in. It's not exclusively taught in Virginia public schools, but to act like that's not being part of these curriculums, even happening in some instances in Texas, is absolute horseshit. But this is the gaslighting that we talk about. The Conservative Heritage Foundation and the other big right-wing donor have fueled the fire with what they call the Great Parent Revolt of 2021. And he says the radical tide of educators, nonprofits, and federal education bureaucrats who are working to rewrite American history. This is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and just cut through all this bullshit. And these are generally what happens. You have media members, pundits, and academics who are the most defensive of public education. So now people, more than they ever have been, a lot of parents are realizing how rotten it is. And this is why I say reform doesn't go, that's not good enough. Reform is dog shit. I want it eliminated. That's when we get actual results. It's outdated. It's archaic. It has no reason to exist. This whole, what about the poor? How about putting the more money back in the poor's hands by allowing them to keep the money that they earn, and then they can decide wherever the fuck they child goes to school, instead of it being in some arbitrary fucking monopolized sort of system where they have to go to what's around them in terms of a district, right? That's the preferable situation. And a lot of parents are waking up to that. They don't like that. As I've said before, I've said on this channel for years that the most protective people are exactly who you see. The mainstream folk, these academics, they are the most protective guys of the state, because in the event that they don't have access to your children, they know they're fucking done. They are pumping out little millions. This is why I continue to tell y'all how important it is, if you want to work towards a more free, more prosperous society, culture, world. Get your kids the fuck up out of there. Get them out. Get them out. As difficult as it might be for some of you, get them the fuck up out of there. And meanwhile, while you get them up out of there, advocate for its elimination so at least you, because you're still going to get taxed to pay for this nonsense, so at least you can get the money in your hands. Okay? They understand that folks have now set their sights. Unlike really have they ever done, like, right? But they have set their sights on the public education system. They recognize that's a threat to them because they are going to be, a lot of them going to be without jobs, right? But they recognize that is also a threat for their influence. And they're going back, they're NPCs. They only have one main go-to, so they have to claim something that's racist, transphobic, or homophobic, or whatever it is. In this case, it's racism. More racism. They have to do that because they have fucking nothing else. That lets you know in itself they have no argument. This is not an issue of race in itself, because the problem itself, when it comes to public education, is something that virtually anybody of any race can relate to, period. Get them the fuck up out of there. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.